sa napakadami ng engineer dyan sa DPWH na dinaanan ng proyekto na ito sa umpisa pa lang, nung ipapabid pa lang, may nagpabaya na at hindi ginawa ang trabaho nila. I'm sorry. This to me looks like a cover-up.
Palpak yung project, may mga dapat na managot. Dito ho pa meron ng pwedeng gawing aksyon ng DPWH.
Sa tinagal-tagal na ng project na yan, karamihan na na-involved dyan sa project na yan, either
Retired na. Wala na pala.
Sir, yung katabi niyo po mismo sa Senate Blue Ribbon Committee hearing, si Undersecretary Eugenio Pipo, this guy, he was Assistant Secretary for Operations in Luzon from September 2013 to November 2020. Ador Canlas, Assistant Secretary for Operations. Sino pa? Loretta Malaluan, yung dating Regional Director ng Region 2. Neri Bueno, naging Regional Director din. And finally, Undersecretary Maria Catalina Cabral, Assistant Secretary for Planning and PPP. She was a major decision maker.
Budget accountability. Kanino po ito?
Pananaw ko po, kami po yun dahil accountable po kami sa budget.
This budget was submitted to Regional Director Malaluan na finorward naman niya sa Central Office, praying na maaprubahan ni then Secretary Mark Villar. Ma'am, why were you forwarding a budget request that would cover yung pagsasaayos ng mga sira ng tulay na ginagawa pa lang at hindi pa na-turn over sa gobyerno? Bakit ninyo inaako na bayaran ng gobyerno yan? And before we move on, I just have to say this. Every year, binabagyo ang area na yan. Every year, binabaha ang area na yan. River yan eh. Malamang tumataas ang tubig kapag umuulan. Bakit hindi yan na-cover sa design sa umpisa pa lang? Na-raise dapat yan sa designing stage pa lang. Walang may alam? Come on. Yung mga steel bars, substandard. Yung mga bolts at steel plates, walang sinubmit na test report. Hindi ako engineer, but I know enough that there should not have been compromise o pagpapabaya sa areas na yan. Tapos, walang mananagot? Sue me kung mali ako. Tinipid yan. You think I'm done? No, sir. The retention money, which was supposed to be the government's insurance, the last 10% withheld from contractors until a project is certified complete and defect-free, it was released. Mr. Secretary, nandyan na lahat ang resibo. Consequence na lang ang wala. Point, nag-aalala na ang Bureau of Design sa structural integrity ng buong tulay. How do I know that? Because it recommended that the design consultant be required to analyze the effect of the displacement and cracks on the overall structural integrity of the whole bridge at ano ang magiging epekto sa structure kapag may load na at movement from the vehicles na dadaan dito. It was only at this point that a review of the original design was sought. Repair and remedial measures were put together. But at this point, cracks were showing all over and in all of the spans that stability and integrity of the whole completed structure is starting to be a concern. And this early in the construction, the word retrofitting is already being floated. November 15, 2019, the Regional Office 2 requested for a third-party review of the original design plan and specifications, assessment of the as-built condition of the bridge under Phase 1 and 2 at para maghanda ng retrofitting scheme kung kailangan. a technical service composed of the Bureau of Design, Bureau of Construction, Bureau of Research and Standards, and Bureau of Quality and Safety was directed to conduct an assessment of the subject bridge and to submit an inspection report. In the inspection report, dated January 10, 2020, the team submitted to then Undersecretary Emil Sadain. It recommended that a third-party inspector be hired to do its own investigation of the bridge and to recommend the appropriate repair or retrofit schemes as deemed necessary on the bridge structure for review of the implementing office and the Bureau of Design. The consultant, Urban Engineers Joint Venture scope of work under the TOR includes the following: review of the original plan, including extension, review of the as-built plan, paano ginawa yung bridge, evaluation and investigation of the as-constructed structures, bridge survey at preparation of detailed design plan of the recommended repair or strengthening and or structural retrofitting measures. Kasama din, maghanda ng cost estimates and implementation of plan bridge retrofitting. At yung implementation of the plan ng retrofitting ng bridge. Urban Engineers at this time had an existing consulting service contract with the DPWH since 2018. In August 1, 2020, the project engineer Lingan, yung unang nagsabi na may defects ang span 8 ng tulay, again requested for a thorough investigation and evaluation by the bridge designers, this time sa span 1, to formulate urgent remedial measures to be implemented to save its structures. These are newly observed defects. Now, before we continue, it is important to mention that in the middle of the construction of the Cabagan-Santa Maria Bridge, the bridge code was updated. Remember, this project started in 2014 and the following year, 2015, lumabas ang bagong bridge code. Major differences, and I will simplify it for all of you. Now, the old bridge code was written when traffic was lighter, vehicles were smaller, and earthquakes were not studied as deeply. So engineers back then made sure a bridge would not break under normal use, but they did not fully design for what happens when a big earthquake or typhoon hits. Kumbaga, just strong enough for everyday use at yung madalas na lindol at bagyo. In the new bridge code, bridges must be built not just to stand up, but to bend without breaking when disaster strikes. They are tested in design for things like multiple heavy trucks stuck in traffic, ship collisions, floods scouring the foundations, strong typhoon winds, and the ground shaking violently during an earthquake. So materials are stronger and the way they're connected is more carefully detailed. So the bridge can roll with the punches. Now, Isabela and Cagayan are both high-risk zones for both earthquakes and typhoons. So in the new code, bridges there should survive intensity 8 to intensity 9 earthquakes. It should withstand 250 km per hour gusts and can carry multiple 30-plus ton trucks at once with a safety margin. That's the new code. Babalikan natin yan mamaya. Now, let me remind you, yung mga sinasuggest na gawan ng plano for repair and retrofitting at this point ay para i-address ang sira ng bridge. It was only in December 29, 2020 that in a letter to DPWH was the retrofitting para i-upgrade ang tulay to the 2015 code was first mentioned, at least in an official letter o memo. It was suggested by the design engineer. Now, here are the findings of urban engineers, yung third party na hinire para i-review ang original plans versus the as-built conditions ng tulay. Nakakagulantang! The number of bolts shown in the design plans is different from what was fabricated and installed on site. Mas kaunti ang ginamit na bolts. With fewer bolts, the connections are weaker. Pangalawa, the strut members at the top of the arches were not connected according to design. Walang embedded plates at mas konti ang bolts na ginamit. The design required steel plates to be embedded inside the concrete arch with bolts tying the struts securely into the steel inside. This way, the struts o yung short compression supports lock firmly into the arch. Without that full grip, the struts do not transfer forces properly into the arch. This weakens the stability of the arch and could cause it to distort or crack under heavy load. Number 3. The truss members forming the arch were supposed to be fully bolted so they could carry the entire compressive force of the arch. Anong ginawa? Only small alignment bolts were used during construction, not the full set of bolts. Ibig sabihin, these members may not resist the full pressure they were meant to. If compression builds up, the connections could buckle or fail, undermining yung role ng mga arko as the main load bearer. Number 4. The bottom cord o yung tie of the arch was supposed to be a moment connection or a stronger connection designed to handle the pulling and bending forces. That means heavy-duty bolts and detailing. The actual connection used fewer bolts and was weaker. So the bottom cord could not do its job of resisting both bending and stretching. In fact, this weakness already caused a real problem. Pier 6 shifted nung nilalagyan ng konkreto yung span 8 in the first phase. That is a sign of structural instability in action. Number 5. The stringers were connected to cross beams on site even though both the drawings and design showed them connected to the bottom cord. Mali pa ang connection. Because of this, loads are not being carried the way the engineers designed. This can cause uneven stress, sagging of the deck, and even cracking. Dahil yung main support mo, the bottom cord, is not doing the job. And finally, the stringer and strut member sizes and sections in the model, the design plans, and the actual built bridge do not match. Ibig sabihin, the engineer's analysis results are no longer reliable. Hindi na nila accurately ma-predict ang totoong magiging behavior ng bridge kahit magkaroon pa ng structural analysis. The bridge may respond in unexpected ways under traffic, wind, or earthquakes. These are just some of the findings, but really major. Ipapaalala ko lang, the tied arch design of this bridge was supposed to be the first in the country and possibly the world. Yung ganitong design scheme would need accurate detailing ng mga connections and anchorages, elaborate construction and launching methodologies, and provision of redundant members or the extra load-carrying element to reduce the risk of collapse of the suspended deck system. But despite the sensitive nature of the project, the following were revised during the implementation of the project. Construction methodology, naging segmental. Pati yung pagbuo ng superstructure na ginawang in-place assembly, imbis na dapat kinabit yan, nabuo na. Pati detailing ng critical parts ng bottom cord to arch connection, iniba. Wala namang alam sa bridge design na yan ng contractor eh. Ba't nagmamarunong? Ito namang original designer, hindi tumutok. Design niya yan. At ito namang DPWH, first in the country. Landmark dapat. Wala. Nagpabaya din. Among many ang recommendation ng urban engineers i-seal yung cracks using pressurized epoxy injection, mag-apply ng carbon fiber reinforcing polymers, concrete jacketing, tapos lalagyan ng steel jacketing or externally bonded steel plates as encasement after ng concrete jacketing. Now, it is important to note at this point na kasama sa naging recommendation ng urban engineers ay i-upgrade ang bridge para maging compliant sa 2015 Bridge Code. One of many. So now, a new budget is being proposed by urban engineers. 233.5 million pesos para ayusin yung mga sira and to retrofit para maging up to code. This budget was submitted to Regional Director Malaluan na finorward naman niya sa Central Office, praying na maaprubahan ni then Secretary Mark Villar. Ma'am, why were you forwarding a budget request that would cover yung pagsasaayos ng mga sira ng tulay na ginagawa pa lang at hindi pa nata-turn over sa gobyerno? Procurement Law Section 62 requires contractors to assume responsibility for structural defects and failures due to faulty design, construction, or materials. 2016 revised IRR ng Procurement Law Section 62.2.1 Defects Liability Period. Contractor dapat ang mag-shoulder ng pagpapaayos ng mga sira within 1 year after ma-turnover ang finished product. Hindi pa nga ito nata-turnover eh. Simpleng sira pa lang yan. Section 62.2.3 Warranty for permanent structures katulad ng tulay. Contractor is still liable if the bridge shows structural defects na may kinalaman sa maling design, maling pagkakagawa o substandard na material. Bakit ninyo inaako na bayaran ng gobyerno yan? Kasi sa napakadami ng engineer dyan sa DPWH na dinaanan ng proyekto na ito sa umpisa pa lang, nung ipapabid pa lang ang project by segment instead of substructure bago superstructure, may nagpabaya na at hindi ginawa ang trabaho nila. I'm sorry. This to me looks like a cover-up. Hindi na-approve ni Yusek Cabral ng planning service na may control sa budget yung proposal. Specifically because the project was covered under MICA o yung Multi-Year Contract Authority up to fiscal year 2021. At wala daw pinasang mga dokumento para i-justify yung pag-retrofit sa bagong gawang tulay pa lang. Pero huwag mo na kayong magpasalamat kay Yusek Cabral kasi maa-approve din ang budget para dyan eventually at kukulo din ang dugo ninyo. Siguro magtataka kayo niyan. Sandali. Di ba sabi mo sa umpisa, hindi yan pinasok sa multi-year budget? Sa Phase 1 at Phase 2 ng bridge para sa spans 1 to 12 at sa abutments. Kaso, kalagitnaan, na-realize nila na binabaha pala yung area kapag may bagyo. So nilagyan ng bridge extension. Nagkaroon ng Phase 3 worth 153.4 million pesos. And before we move on, I just have to say this. Every year, binabagyo ang area na yan. Every year, binabaha ang area na yan. River yan eh. Malamang tumataas ang tubig kapag umuulan. Bakit hindi yan na-cover sa design sa umpisa pa lang? Na-raise dapat yan sa designing stage pa lang. Walang may alam? Come on. So anyway, hindi pa na-approve ang budget para sa pag-ayos sa tulay. Sabi ng regional office sa contractor, uy, gawin nyo na agad yung pag-epoxy para ayusin ang cracks. Bago lumala, di ba? Ang sagot ng contractor, ang RDIJC, yung crack repair daw, kasama na sa final contract drawings para sa retrofitting plans na sinabmit ng urban engineers. Hintayin na lang daw ang bidding para doon so everything is done under one contract at masunod yung retrofitting master plan. In other words, pinapasalo na nila sa mananalo sa bidding yung dapat na gastusan nilang repair ng cracks. Ang kapal! Now, on December 10, 2021, sabi ulit ng project engineer na si Engineer Lingan, yung una nagsalita tungkol sa mga sira ng tulay na pagkatapos niyang mabasa yung report ng urban engineers na since isa sa mga failure ay nasa substructure, particularly sa column, he supposes that from the very beginning, the whole bridge structure is bound to fail. Masisira at masisira ang tulay. So bakit pinilit pa din pondohan ang repair at retrofitting ng tulay? Even after the Bids and Awards Committee ng Region 2 sumulat sa Legal Division regarding sa paggamit ng government fund sa pag-upgrade at retrofit ng tulay, nasa liability period pa nga. Walang sagot regarding dyan, by the way. At hulaan ninyo, sino ang nanalo sa contract para sa retrofitting ng tulay? 274.8 million sa first phase ng retrofitting. 115.8 million para sa second phase. RD Interior Junior Construction, RDIJC. Sila ulit. Palpak na nga ginawa ang tulay dahil hindi sinunod ang specifications na nasa original plan, tapos ayaw gawin yung pag-epoxy ng cracks dahil pasok naman na daw sa kontrata na ipapabid pa lang para sa retrofitting. Kaya pala, kasi sila din ang mananalo doon. And true enough, pasok sa retrofitting contract ang repair ng bridge na dapat ay shouldered ng contractor dahil nga nasa liability period pa. And so it happened. February 27 of this year, span 3 of the bridge collapsed noong may dumaan na dump truck with a gross vehicle weight of 89.63 tons. Samantalang light vehicles lang ang allowed dumaan, which does not make sense. Di ba ang point of retrofitting the bridge was to make it compliant sa 2015 Bridge Code. Ibig sabihin, dapat matibay yan enough para sa worst case scenario. It should survive intensity 8 to intensity 9 earthquakes. It should withstand 250 km/h typhoon gusts and can carry multiple 30-plus ton trucks at once with safety margin. Bakit bumagsak pa din? Sabi nga ng urban engineer sa findings nila, sa sobrang dami ng hindi sinunod sa plano, wala nang makakapag-predict ng totoong magiging behavior ng tulay kahit magkaroon pa ng structural analysis. Sure, the driver and operator of the truck should be charged for overloading. 89.63 tons is almost double the legal limit indicated sa RA 8794 or the Motor Vehicle Users Charge Law. Sure, the bridge was designed with a design load capacity of 33 metric tons, but that's just a baseline. The engineers involved in this project, particularly sa retrofitting, I assume, accounted for multiple trucks on the span at the same time, stationary loading, o kung nakahinto sila at the same time. Halimbawa, may naaksidente, walang makausad, at dynamic effects tulad ng braking, vibration, at impact. Ibig sabihin, bridges are built with safety factors. May reserve strength beyond the 33 tons na baseline. Ibig sabihin, a bridge designed for 33 tons should not collapse immediately kapag nadaanan ng mas mabigat na truck. It is expected to resist loads above that value, at least up to the legal load limit na 45 tons para sa mga truck and some beyond. The truck was overloaded, yes, but in engineering, collapse is not the expected outcome of overloading. Ang consequences dapat niyan, more stress on the bridge, possible cracking or damage, or accelerated wear and tear. Ang pag-collapse ng bridge na yan was an indication that that bridge was weaker than its stated capacity. May construction o design defects at talagang may structural failure. Hiwalay ang accountability dyan. Kung mas malalim na discussion pa ang gagawin natin sa construction yan, mas makakapanlumo pa that not only was this project not discontinued, pinondohan pa ang repair dahil sa mali-maling ginawa ng contractor. Yung mga bolts, binawasan na nga, niliitan pa. Sa Pier 2, yung bottom cord ng truss arch na winelding sa end plate, ano nakita? Ang required sa design, 32 millimeters. Ang weld size na ginawa ng contractor, 18.4 millimeters. That's just 57% of the specified thickness. Ibig sabihin, the joint connecting the bottom cord to the plate was under capacity from the very start. And the bottom cord is one of the most critical parts of the bridge because it resists yung bending at saka yung actual tension. Yung welding ng base plates saka steel plates sa abutment sa magkabilang dulo, pati piers 1 hanggang 3, either hindi maayos ang pagkakagawa o incomplete. Hindi ako engineer, but I know enough that there should not have been compromise o pagpapabaya sa areas na yan. The bridge's foundations are weaker than what we were made to believe. Yung mga tests sa board piles under piers 3, 6, and 9 revealed that they cannot carry the load required in the approved design. Hindi na-meet ang strength standards. It's a structural time bomb. Marami pang ibang mali. But these alone directly caused the failure and collapse of that bridge because the main load-carrying parts of the bridge, yung bottom cord, tsaka supports, were not properly connected. Sue me kung mali ako. Tinipid yan. Sino nga habol sa subcontractor? Hindi din sinunod sa umpisa ang sinabi sa procurement law na dapat joint venture. Oh, by the way, hindi rin sinabmit ng contractor ang lahat ng eligibility requirement ng subcontractor nila na Grandspan Development Corporation. Pero binigay pa din sa kanila ang kontrata. Hindi lang yan. Yung report nila na hindi sila nakapagtrabaho dahil may bagyo o ito yung mga tinatawag na unworkable conditions 6 to 10 months after mangyari nila ni-report. May mga pagkakataon pa nga na advance nila ni-report. May 2, 2016, nagfa-file na sila ng rainy o unworkable conditions para sa June, July, at August. They did that again, August 2017. Ang galing! Napredict nila yung mga magiging maulan na araw na hindi sila makakapagtrabaho between September 2017 and September 2018. What the fuck? You think I'm done? No, sir. The retention money, which was supposed to be the government's insurance, the last 10% withheld from contractors until a project is certified complete and defect-free, it was released under Section 6.2 of Annex E of the 2016 IRR of the procurement law said money can only be released after a certificate of final acceptance is issued. But for 2 contracts, the DPWH released the retention money without any CFA on record. In other words, they handed the contractor the people's money without proof that the projects were truly completed. Walang ganoon because they were not completed. Yung mga steel bars, substandard. Yung mga bolts at steel plates, walang sinubmit na test report. Tapos, walang mananagot, walang preventively suspended man lang sa DPWH. We have standards sa procurement law precisely to make sure na qualified ang mga contractors na kinukuha ng gobyerno mula sa design, construction hanggang maintenance ng project. Kung sa umpisa pa lang, accommodation na ang ginawa ng DPWH, ano pa talaga ang aasahan natin, hindi lang sa project na yan kundi sa lahat ng malalaki at mahalagang project sa buong bansa. And by the way, between 2016 hanggang ngayong taon, ang RDIJC secured contracts worth almost 7 billion pesos with the DPWH, mga daan at tulay. Former DPWH Secretary Manny Bonoan was either ill-advised or was lying when he said yung mga involved sa Kabagan Santa Maria Bridge ay retired na.
Palpak yung project, may mga dapat na managot na opisyal o mula sa pamahalaan. Dito ho pa meron ng pwedeng gawing aksyon ng DPWH.
Well, sa tinagal-tagal na ng project na yan, Ka-Jerry, karamihan ng na-involved dyan sa project na yan, either
Retired na.
yung mga-
Wala na pala.
Sir, yung katabi niyo po mismo sa Senate Blue Ribbon Committee hearing, si Undersecretary Eugenio Pipo, this guy, he was Assistant Secretary for Operations in Luzon from September 2013 to November 2020. He should have reviewed funding requests and overseen the implementation of the original and bridge extension. He was a major decision maker in those stages. He became Undersecretary for Operations in charge among many of Region 2 since 2022. I assume kasama siya sa nag-recommend ng funding request at nag-oversee ng implementation ng retrofitting works. Ador Canlas, Assistant Secretary for Operations between August 2022 hanggang 2024. Kasama din dapat sa nag-review ng funding requests at nag-oversee ng implementation ng retrofitting works. A major decision maker there. Undersecretary for Technical Services from May 2024 until 2 months ago. So he was responsible for the approval of the revised plan para sa retrofitting. Sino pa? Loretta Malaluan, yung dating regional director ng Region 2. Very much involved in the construction of that bridge during critical stages. Assistant Secretary na ngayon for Operations sa Luzon. Neri Bueno, naging regional director din like Malaluan. Actually, nauna kay Malaluan, nag-submit ng funding request at nag-implement ng Phase 1 ng bridge. Now, Assistant Secretary for Regional Operations for Visayas and Mindanao. And finally, Undersecretary Maria Catalina Cabral, Assistant Secretary for Planning and PPP from 2011 to 2014. She reviewed funding requests for the implementation of the critical first phase ng tulay. She had been Undersecretary in charge of Planning Service and PPP mula 2014. Ibig sabihin, she reviewed, processed, and recommended funding requests para sa implementation ng original bridge, bridge extension, at retrofitting works. She was a major decision maker.
Budget accountability. Kanino po ito?
Pananaw ko po, kami po yun dahil accountable po kami sa budget.
Ngayon, ang tanong ko po, mangyayari po ba yung katanungan kanina ng aming chairman sa mga contractors? Magkakaroon ba ng ghost project? Magkakaroon ba ng substandard projects na hindi alam ng DPWH?
Your Honor, dapat po alam ng implementing office.
Dapat alam ng DPWH. So in other words, kung may maaring mangyaring katarantaduhan sa DPWH infra project, kayo po dapat ang makakalam. Di po ba?
Tama po, Your Honor.
Yes. Why?
Ang DPWH po ang implementing agency.
Tapos, sinabi niya sa Blue Ribbon Committee hearing, wala siyang alam sa sira nung inapprove niya ang retrofitting budget. Samantalang, sa memo in March 2021, she cited the report of the urban engineers, which specifically was about the defects of the bridge. So why did she say sa hearing na hindi niya alam? All of these people nananatili sa DPWH. None of them were preventively suspended in relation to the investigation ng Kabagan Santa Maria Bridge collapse. Akala ko ba, retired na yung mga involved dyan?
Right now, no one was preventively suspended.
Karamihan ng na-involved dyan sa project na yan.
Retired na.
Itong mga to, hindi. Ang bilis magsisipagsinungaling sa mga hearing.
The Bureau of Design is involved.
Yes, Your Honor.
Bridget.
Dito lang sa Phase 3.
So sa Phase 1, hindi involved ang Bureau of Design.
Hindi
So,
po. Phase 2, hindi rin.
is this bridge more than 75?
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh, so bakit hindi involved ang Bureau of Design sa Phase 1?
Hindi involved siya.
You said kanina Phase 3 na. So sa Phase 1, hindi involved ang
Hindi
Bureau of
involved.
Design.
Hindi
So,
po. Phase 2, hindi rin.
Bridget.
Dito lang sa Phase 3.
parang hindi kayo seryoso sa investigation na to.
Gago, di ba? There was clear malfeasance by DPWH people in this project. Very clear. There was gross neglect. There was deliberate cover-up. And now, we have a new secretary, Mr. Vince Dizon. Mr. Secretary, I don't know if you remember, but we worked together in 2013. And as a former colleague, let me tell you this. The DPWH can keep changing its roof or its doors and windows, but it remains a house falling apart. The Kabagan Santa Maria Bridge should have been terminated a long time ago. And after having read the reports, it was clear to me that nothing could have saved it from collapsing because it started wrong. The DPWH is a house rotting from the inside because the rats and termites are in the walls. Mr. Secretary, it is just right that in your want to clean this house, you wanted to start right by starting from there. Pero wag po ninyong tatapusin dyan. Kailangan managot ang dapat managot. Kailangang maparusahan ang mga nagpabaya. Dahil kung nangyari yan sa Kabagan Santa Maria Bridge, nangyari yan sa ibang proyekto. The collapse of the Kabagan Santa Maria Bridge was not an accident. That was authorized by everyone who failed to do their job. Mr. Secretary, nandyan na lahat ang resibo. Consequence na lang ang wala. Lahat na pinrotektahan sa project na ito, maliban sa Pilipino at sa kaban ng bayan. DPWH, what the fuck? This is CJ Hero, and we are proudly PGMN. Hi everyone! We are not a corporate-backed media giant with deep pockets and hundreds of staff. We are a lean, scrappy startup, independent, privately funded, and powered by passion. This community means everything to us, and we are grateful you're here helping it grow. Now, we are taking it a step further. We've got merch! Let us all wear our message literally on our sleeves. Let's keep building. Let's keep fighting. Let's keep growing strong because we are proudly PGMN.